Oh my God,
Exactly.
this is wonderful, Goddess. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
This
Okay.
is so important. This
Thank
is
you.
so,
I'm honored.
I know what I see you.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank you.
really wonderful.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, where we speak the language of cannabis freely and uncensored while educating our audience on safe use of this live plant therapy. You should know what's in your cannabis, what's good and what's not, because cannabis does not come with an FDA stamp of approval, yet. The information you will find here comes straight from scientists and clinicians, doing the work and reporting their findings in reputable outlets. Hopefully, we can inspire you to research the facts as we know them today. Cannabis is an amazing alternative in health remedies, with the potential to alleviate typical disease problems and troubling side effects, even those caused by synthetic prescriptions. Here now is the host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast. She is a 21st century cannabis shaman, not a doctor, not a scientist. Raised by nuns and wolves in the verdant cattle pastures of the Oklahoma oil fields, here to amplify the truth of this great big story of cannabis in historical, political, scientific, and spiritual terms, so you can make educated decisions about the medicine you choose to ingest. Please welcome Honey Smith Walls.
There we go. And hello, sweet audience. I'm here again today with another podcast of Another Woman in Weed, is what I love to say. And this one is going to be talking about a subject, oh my glory. It is so important to so many people. And so, y'all know me. I'm Honey Smith Walls. I'm a cannabis educator. I've been in this industry for the past 10 years. Feeling like I'm all alone. And when the pandemic hit, I had to pivot from live stages and audiences to podcasting. So I've been in this podcasting thing for 6 years now, and I'm just kind of patting myself on the back because I'm 70, y'all. And, you know,
You would never know by looking at you.
Thank you. This is how it goes for women. What I've noticed in my lifetime, here's a little womanly wisdom going on here. What I've noticed, especially after being married to a man who was so much older than me, he was 22 years older than me, and y'all have heard me talk about Louis a little bit. He died at 90. And I had the pleasure of enjoying all his old fart friends and mine too, but watching them steadily go down that big pharma road into death from all that polypharmacy. And if they'd just taken a tiny bit of autonomy back in their medical health and their lives, they could have probably lived a whole lot longer. Because you know what they've always said, whoever the hell they are, we are what we eat. So just saying that, you know, once I found something to fix all of those issues of polypharmacy for elders, and I was in my elderly years, still am. I don't feel like it anymore, but I was then. And I felt like I was 1 foot for the grave already. And that was in my early 60s. So, I just loved when Florida became legal and I was able to get a product that could alleviate so many of my aches and pains. And I didn't understand why. And, you know, I'm an old hippie. And, you know, I played with the plant when I was a kid, when my body was young and didn't have all these womanly issues going on. So I just played with it recreationally. And yet when I became an older woman and realized that, oh, there might be some relief for all of these tons of womanly aches and pains going on that, damn, I didn't need that doctor dance for. You know, didn't need another prescription, off label to help me with mood swings, all of that stuff. So I just appreciated the fact that I could, use a little cannabis in many different forms salves, tinctures, smoking it, however I wanted to, because our choices are wide, especially now. Once I found that relief to alleviate so many womanly issues, I couldn't shut up about it. But I really had to figure out why cannabis works. And there's two real reasons. I mean, I'm just going to lay it out for you right here now, since we're having a little quick lesson. The first one is that we've all got an endocannabinoid system of receptors in our body that runs from head to toe. And that's newly discovered. It's your 12th bodily system. And most doctors on the planet don't even know it exists yet. They discovered it in 1992. So that endocannabinoid system of receptors that runs throughout all of our body binds perfectly with the hundreds of cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids and compounds in cannabis. And cannabis is unique that way. And so all of those compounds in cannabis have medicinal values. Yes, THC gets us high. But aside from that, elders are afraid of falling. And so the thought of that bad boy THC marijuana, making us woozy, we're afraid of falling. If we break a hip at this age, it's, life is over as we know it, and probably forever.
Hi, Honey Smith Walls here. I'm host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, weekly for the past 6 years. But today I'm inviting you to a Facebook group called the Holistic Relief Summit, in hopes that you too will come for the peace and stay for the epiphanies. It's a beautiful space for women to find all kinds of relief from all kinds of suffering. Come join us for free.
Well, hello, I'm Dr. Philip Blair, and I want to introduce you to Honey Smith Walls. And she recently had an experience with beta caryophyllene.
For years, I've been dealing with lots of arthritis pain and pain from neuropathy that has not been resolved through other prescriptive methods. As an advocate educator in the cannabis industry, I learn lots of interesting information about the compounds within the plants. And one of those turned out to be beta caryophyllene.
What was your first dose like?
I was gobsmacked. Absolutely gobsmacked. It has given me my future back.
I want to get it out to everybody too. I want to get it out to the whole world, as a matter of fact. It has so many mitigating factors for all the stresses of life and pain and diseases. It is unbelievable, the spectrum of care that it can provide.
So now that we've been through the little lesson, I apologize. I do turn into Chatty Cathy about this, and I'm sure you know what I mean. Please let me introduce our darling guest today, Michelle Babitz. And she's going to talk to us about a different side of cannabis that can help.
Well, I'm certainly not an expert on cannabis. Like you, I was definitely a flower girl when I was in my teens and 20s and stuff like that. So, I'm not an expert in cannabis. All I can tell you is I'm speaking from my gut. And
Which is the first brain.
correct. And also, what I like to refer to as infinite intelligence. So universal understanding. Okay.
Yes.
So my story, I have two stories. My first story is my brother, he dabbled in a lot of heavy drugs when he was in his teens. He became a violent alcoholic.
Oh, God love him.
And in his 20s, he did stop drinking, but he didn't necessarily follow the 12-step program. So he ultimately evolved into what I refer to as a dry drunk, right? So he still acted out in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't think he was physically violent, too badly with his family. I know there were one or two incidents that I know of, but I'm hoping those were it. Um, but one of the things I knew about him is that he never stopped smoking pot, which is why he wouldn't go to the 12-step meetings, was because he was a pothead. And all I can tell you is he was a much nicer person to be around when he was stoned. And I'm so heartbroken that he passed away before it all became legal.
Oh,
Because he also struggled to be, when it came to working and things like that. If he was alive now, he'd be like the superstar in the cannabis industry.
yes.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I knew that about him. So I knew I could see the impact that it had on him from a medicinal point of view. Now, the reason why we're doing the interview today is I have a 40-year plus background in autism. And my specialty was severe autism, the most violent, disruptive spirits on the planet.
Yeah.
And I was very, very blessed to work the first 20 years of my career in two schools that taught me just great mindset strategies and great mindset with autism. And this was back in the 70s, so I'm kind of aging myself. And this was back in a day where they were actually using like punishment and aversive techniques. But I was very blessed to work in schools that were of a more therapeutic milieu approach, or the importance of physical activity. Instead of 80% in the classroom and 20% exercise, my first experience was 80% exercise, 20% in the classroom, because you got 80% out of them in that 20%. Then I worked in another school in Massachusetts where they taught me therapeutic milieu, where you include the individual with autism, regardless of how severe they are, in the process of understanding what they need therapeutically, right? So, and then I came into the public schools in California. So that was New Jersey, Massachusetts, the first 20 years. Then I came to California and I worked in the public schools, and that was a very tragic transition for me, right? Because I went from working in environments that were 100% what do these kids need? And we have every option available to help them to, you can't talk about that, it's too expensive. So the answer was medicine. Now, there were kids in my schools back in New Jersey and Massachusetts that were on medication, but that was not the first, that was not the go-to, right? If the physical activities and the therapeutic milieu approach still didn't quite manage, and we're talking about very violent behavior, then medication was considered and used, right? Because it's not that Western medicine is bad, it's just badly administered, right? At least in my opinion.
I agree.
Right. So, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but I was very, very lucky. My first boss in California had the task. Originally, they would have the most violent kids go to what was called a non-public school or private school, whatever you want to call it. But then when the numbers started to increase, the school districts couldn't afford that. Sorry. The school districts couldn't afford to keep sending these kids out and paying $100,000 a year per kid. So they were tasked with bringing all these kids back to district. So because I had these 20 years behind me, my first boss here in California recognized that. And so I was sort of the person that she tasked with bringing all these violent kids back. And thank God she was the type of person that recognized, and it's, that the mindset and the training that I had to bring to the table, she trusted me. When I said I needed something, she gave it to me. Even if I said I needed 2 aides for a student, based on my prior training, I could give her a time frame on when I could reduce it to 1, and or even in some cases, reduce it to 0. And I won't get into this, but there was one student who was the most violent 8-year-old he was so violent. He had a bouncer for an aide, and he had like a something on where they could grab him so he wouldn't hurt people. I had him figured out in about 30 minutes. And he was never violent when he came to my class. And he was never on medication. So, and my whole point to all of that is not, oh, wow, look at me. It's more like, look at the individual and understand who they are and what they're trying to tell us. What are they telling us?
Yes.
Right? Every violent act are just words.
Yes.
Right? They're just communication. They don't.
It's communication.
It's not. They don't.
They can't speak it.
Correct. They can't speak our language.
They can't speak our language, and we haven't figured theirs out at that point.
Right. And the mindset of education is they need to learn our language. The whole mindset to education is right. So my mindset is we need to. Although I have great credentials and I've got great training, when a student came to me, I was like the student and they were my teacher.
Oh.
And then the second person that was most important to me was the parents. Even with parents that were not necessarily some were not mentally stable themselves, but even they were my teachers. It didn't matter to me what their challenges were. I knew that they knew more about their kid than anybody else on the planet. Right?
Of course.
Right. So how does this relate to cannabis? One of the things that I fought against was medication intervention, even with the most violent kids, because I experienced two things. First and foremost, my opinion was our kids were guinea pigs for these pharmaceutical companies. And they would just try this, try this, try this. And more often than not, I mean, I can't give you the exact data, but my gut tells me at least 80 to 90% of the time when medication was used, it made the situation worse. They became more violent, or they exhibited different types of disruptive or aggressive behavior, or they lost their entire spirit and soul. They were just empty vessels, right? Sure, that means we don't have to deal with violence, but it still never felt right to me. And because I've always, I love marijuana, and I believe in marijuana, and I saw how it impacted my brother. I just always knew in my gut that if we could use cannabis, which is of Mother Earth, right? I felt so strongly that that would be the key to helping manage their behaviors. And because in one of the many communications that these kids were trying to tell us were significant imbalances in their chemistry and their neurological systems. I don't understand the science like you do. I don't want to understand the science like you do. I'm just glad to know you, right? And so that was my gut. And I was so excited when cannabis became legalized. And of course, California was one of the first areas. There's actually a cannabis chamber out here where I live. And in that, yeah, I know. And you should probably start one.
I thank you. Yes.
Absolutely. It's called CV Can. I'll put it in the chat. I
want to look at them and talk to them and find out how to start a chamber here.
There's also a national cannabis chamber.
I had no idea.
Yeah. That one I don't know, Coachella. But if you go to this, Coachella.
I know Coachella.
Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network.
Okay. Writing as fast as
and I'm here, and I just put it in there, and it's cvcan.org.
Okay. CV.
And through them, I met somebody like you. They're both nurses,
Yeah.
And they do presentations all the time out here. So, I'm going to also put in the chat their contact information so that maybe you could reach out to them. So
Are you
again,
talking about Trusted Canine Nurse, Megan Bang and Ariane, her partner?
it's Elizabeth Mack.
Oh, I know Elizabeth. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
know them. Yeah, they're
Elizabeth Mack. Yeah.
fantastic. They're fantastic. So I run in those circles.
Okay, great. So
Yep.
yeah, I would talk to them about getting a chamber out there. It was so it was such a great organization, and they did it well.
Yeah.
So now I was connecting with them with another business that I do on the side. I was trying to help them with legal services, but I'm also really passionate about working with Elizabeth and somebody like you about autism. So, and I'm almost done. So what I've done is,
Got plenty of time. Don't feel rushed.
oh, okay, thank you. Well, I feel like I'm just like that. But so my partner, my wife and I, she had a background in theater. She also looked at going into the Episcopal Church. Ended up doing some volunteer work in my classroom, writing plays for my students. And she would write a play so that every student had a part, regardless of who they were.
Wow.
And my boss fell in love with her and asked her if she wanted to work as a teacher. And at that time in California, you could work on what was called an emergency credential. So my boss hired her, and we were lucky. We've been together over 30 years. We love working together.
Of course.
And so we taught in the same room for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay. She worked with the higher functioning kids, and I worked with the lower functioning. And some of the violent, some of the higher functioning kids had a lot of behavior problems too, but it was a perfect match. And the reason I'm sharing that is, I don't want to get in, I don't want to derail too much, but certain things started to change in our district, and I started to become very physically, I was being physically injured a lot. For the first time in 35 years, it wasn't because I was working with all the same kids that I'd worked with for years, but it was the administrative restructuring that resulted in my being to the point where, quite frankly, I almost had a nervous breakdown. It was so bad.
Okay, I get it.
So Robin and I were building our Legal Shield business about 7 years part-time, and we just cut the cord in teaching and retired to build the Legal Shield business and in part to become a parent advocate, no longer a district advocate, to help these families with legal. But what it did was it gave us the flexibility. We wrote a book on autism called I Am David, A Journey to the Soul of Autism. Right now, Robin and I are writing a play. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Writing a play on autism, and called Behind the Mask, A Journey to the Soul of Autism. And that's our brand, because autism has been a very spiritual and soulful experience for me for more than 40 years. But the reason I really am excited to be connecting with you and people like Elizabeth Mack is before COVID and before Trump. Sorry for anybody that's listening, that's a Trumper. The schools and therapies were falling short, and they were failing our kids and their families. Then COVID hit, and these families all of a sudden overnight had their kids 24/7. They had to homeschool all of their kids, and in some cases, when they were lucky enough, figure out how to work their job. Many, many individuals on the spectrum and families have not recovered yet. Like one of my former students still refuses to leave the house now. She will not leave the house because of COVID. And so one of the things that I was inspired, because I mentioned infinite intelligence earlier, I believe in my communication with whatever other selves there are and in spirits.
Me too.
Right.
Make it tingle inside.
Exactly. I got this like, woof, this idea, and it said, how can I help these families, especially post-COVID? And now God only knows I mean, these families are being faced with losing whatever financial support they have, their education. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. We can only do like I'm working anyway. I'm not going to get on the tangent. We don't really know what's going to happen. In many cases, we're not going to be able to control what's going to happen. The only thing we can control is how we react to what's happening. Okay. So last year, 2024, I got this idea to start what's called the Soul of Autism Mastermind.
Oh, wow.
And the mastermind, so what I thought was these families, whatever the school and therapies are doing, they're not doing enough to help them in that 5-hour meltdown on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And when you have families on the severe end of the spectrum, okay, they're isolated. They can never go out with their kids. And in some cases, if they're a single parent, they can't go out.
It crazes your mind too, as an adult.
There are I know of parents that have committed suicide because of it, right? So the Soul of Autism Mastermind is I'm officially launching it next month.
Oh.
Okay, and it is a safe space. And we're going to do everything on Zoom, and we're going to create groups, and the groups are going to be no more than 15 per group, so that there can be an intimate relationship within each of those groups. So there's going to be multiple groups, obviously. And as it builds, we'll, have multiple times and days during the week, right?
Yes.
And so what we do is part of the subscription is the parents come together once a week in a Zoom format. And they bring to the table with the group of no more than 15, what is their challenge that week? What do they need help with?
Yes.
What is scaring them?
Yes.
Right now? And then
support group, unlike, that's online. It's right at your fingertips.
Exactly.
Oh my God, this is wonderful, Goddess. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Listen, not only that, let me just interrupt you for this second to say, I want to invite you to my summit that's happening right now. And I want you to come as my guest, as my honored speaker I want you to come and I want you to talk to my audience that's online in a different space and tell them this. This is so important.
Thank you. I'm honored.
I know I see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, shut me up.
When is no. When is the summit?
It started yesterday. It's from the 20th through the 30th. And I'm gathering speakers from holistic speakers, from every kind of, any kind of womaning 101 help that we can get. And this is exactly a perfect niche for these women who are coming looking for help.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Very much. I'm honored. So we can set that up.
Girl, talk to me.
So basically, what we do is, professionals like myself, our tendency is to talk at parents and tell them what they need to do. And that's not realistic. I don't care how right you are as a speech therapist, as an OT, as an educator. These parents are not only parenting their neurodivergent child, but they also have family members that they need to take care of. They've got jobs, right? They've got their own mental health challenges in some cases, right? So we're not doing them any favors by talking at them. It just makes us feel good. We went to school.
Well, aren't we raised like that as women, to be mothers and teachers and talking at people, at our children? No, listen to me. Focus. No, this way.
Right.
And then, God help us, we learn that that's not the best way to teach anything.
Exactly.
Later, especially with neurodivergent children.
Right. Exactly. So this is more, I'm facilitating these parents and caretakers to mastermind solutions together. And then I interject my thoughts, but basically it's a facilitation. And so that's my first goal. My second goal is to build this out nationally so that we can get out to more and more families that need it now more than ever with everything that's happening potentially with Medicaid and education. But I'm like you. I believe I'm a big personal development reader, and I love Napoleon Hill, even though he's very male dominant, but he wrote in the 30s. From every right. From every adversity is a seed of opportunity. So I'm not going to digress with that yet. I'm going to digress with that in a moment. So basically, I want to create an opportunity for these forced stay-at-home moms and dads, but I'm very female focused.
Sure.
Of course, I love dads. I mean, the guy who I was on a Zoom with earlier was an autism dad who's helping me with my website.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. I'll introduce you to him too. But basically, because I can only manage a certain amount of groups because I want to keep them small. So I'm going to start with training. I have some parent ambassadors already. Train more parent ambassadors. At first, free membership means you can facilitate a group, and then eventually I want it to grow so that I can actually pay people, parents, to work this business from home around the needs of their kids.
Wow, that makes me tingle.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm going to put my website.
Generous idea.
Thank you. And then, of course, with the subscription, there's going to be training. There's going to be more and more. I'm going to be providing more tools and more opportunities that are solutions based and that are user friendly based for parents moving forward as it grows. I will give you I'm going to put a link to my website in here. Now, how does this all relate to cannabis? Okay, back to the purpose.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
Wait. I want to split this show up into two.
Okay.
So I want you to answer that question on part 2 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast with Michelle Babitz. So stand by. So I'm just going to say thank you, Michelle Babitz, for being here for part 1. And you all stay tuned for the next part 2 of this, where you're going to find out a whole ton of answers. And you're going to get to come to the Holistic Relief Summit on Facebook, a free Facebook group, free for all of the attendees, to hear her again, because she's going to come be a speaker on the summit. So, woohoo! I am so excited to meet Michelle Babitz. Thank you for being here. And I'm just going to clap my hands one more time.